Part 45. Infinite Doomsday Start Draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Aichiji. Chapter 441. The person who made it must have seen a baby stroller, but there were some problems in the control of materials. Google searched can. It is too heavy, which is safe enough, but it is very difficult for people to push and pull it. However, Ruger looked at the young couple along the stroller handrail and shook his head immediately. He thought that if it were these two, it would not be a problem if it was 10 times heavier. The degree of demonization of these two people was very low, especially the mother. Except for her bright red hair that was too evil, she didn't look like a demon at all. But if you look closely, the hairband that seemed to be tied into a bow on her short red hair was actually her demon horns. Ruger had seen this person before, whether in the mobile phone tablet projected by Luodu or in the computer in his original world. This person is the heroine in the original 3 generations of games, a Horadrim adventure scholar wearing a red top, brown leather pants, and a pair of calfskin boots, the daughter of the Dark Wanderer, and the mother of Tia, Leah. Needless to say, the man next to him was dressed in a Lost Warrior leather jacket, the former bounty hunter Ray Bana, and later Mr. Max. This was the home of Tia when she was a cradle. So, what would this place look like? Ruger stopped near the entrance of the courtyard and looked around. Sure enough, after a warm conversation, the two mentioned Tia and her future. Ruger heard this story from Sarah or Old Noisy. The couple used courage to overcome fear, separated Old Noisy, a creature like a shadow, from Tia's natural Diablo soul, and always encouraged Tia to have the courage to face everything and not to be afraid of such things. Well, Ruger thought about it again, and it seemed that he had guessed the true nature of Old Noisy's so-called shadow. Perhaps, it was simply the shadow of Diablo's demon. Therefore, ordinary people can't see it, so even magic can't hurt it at all. However, Mephisto, who has the same level of essence, can not only see it quickly, but also hit it back into Tia's body with a casual move. This is because Ruger did not notice that Gialia, who can see the phantoms of the demon gods, can also see Luodu, otherwise he must not only be suspicious and guessing, but only 80% to 90% sure. Instead, he can be 100% sure that Luodu's so-called shadow characteristics must have an inseparable connection with the phantom of the demon god. Because of the appearance of Luodu, he suddenly remembered the essence of the shadow. But it didn't last long, and the scene here took a sharp turn again. In the conversation between Mr. Max and Leah, he began to be full of various fears about the future and his worries about Tia. He even mentioned that Tia would disappoint the couple. Just kidding. Even the most unreliable parents would hardly guard their cradle children and say that she would disappoint them in the future. It is not that there are parents who are particularly unreliable and do not love their own flesh and blood, but such parents will hardly have the warm scene in the previous scene. This must be, and can only be, Tia's worry. Tia, who has always been fearless and brave, is actually still afraid and fearful deep in her heart. Now it seems that her biggest fear is about these closest people. In a trance, the figure appeared again. This time, Ruger did not hesitate at all and followed immediately. He was stunned again after walking a few steps and passing through another familiar door. Because this direction was originally his car repair shop in the second shelter. But after passing through the back door of the back corridor and entering inside, this place became his bunker. That's right, it is the most used facility in his logistics space, the bunker as an underground military factory. This time, there are only 2 people left in the bunker. Well, there is a third person. However, the huge Andariel can only be regarded as a background board. There was no poisonous cloud around, but 2 pairs of tentacles and a pair of arms, holding 3 different firearms. They were a pump-action shotgun, a precision marksman rifle, and a heavy machine gun. As for the models, they were all used by Ruger. Needless to say, this Andariel was not poison Andariel, but Sean, the Sarah Kerrigan version of Andariel. Then, the man and woman in front of the main control computer desk of the bunker could only be himself and Tia. Due to the angle, Ruger could only see his own face in Tia's sea of consciousness. But seeing this face, he was somewhat amused. Because this face was exactly the same as his own. There were no traces of skeletonization or demonization. There was no withering flesh and blood, no sharp teeth in the mouth, and no demonic ornaments. There were no demon horns, demon eyes, demon bat wings, etc. Only below. It was a thick, long and flexible tail. Well, tail. Demon tail. However, the demon tail seemed to be out of control. Although Tia had forcibly pulled it towards her several times, it would always slip out at some incredible angle and secretly have some strange communications with the background board Andariel. Okay. Ruger thought to himself that it seemed that Tia was actually a little dissatisfied. However, it was diluted by the complicated relationship between the few people. Listening to this version of the conversation between the two, it was indeed the same as when Ruger first brought Tia to the bunker. The two were honest with each other, talked to each other, established a relationship, and imagined the future. It was also from then on that Ruger and Tia clarified their goals and built a home of their own. Ruger always thought that Tia would regard the second sanctuary as her home. Her alchemy workshop was also transformed into the second sanctuary before, which proved this point. But Ruger really didn't expect that in Tia's heart, she would also regard the bunker as her home, as an extremely important place. As for the reason, there is no need to say it, it can only be because of Ruger. Thinking of this, Ruger looked at the two people's heartfelt confession again, and felt somewhat moved by the past. But, soon, the conversation between the two had problems again. "Brother Lou, will you really be with me forever? Never separate from me?" "Of course. Forever." But the devil's tail said, "Always say forever, but who can really control the future? What really matters is the present. Now, don't we have each other?" Scumbag. Typical scumbag quotes. Ruger was angry. But soon, Tia said, "Then, if one day I am not beautiful, will you still like me? You are always beautiful in my eyes." Ruger thought. "You are always beautiful in my eyes." The devil's tail Ruger also said so. But anyway, you can't get fat no matter how much you eat, so how can you become ugly? Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 442. Scumbag. He is indeed a super scumbag. Google search reading. After being stabbed in the heart twice by scumbag quotes, although Ruger could not see Tia's expression, he could feel her sadness and worry from her body language. But she still plucked up the courage and asked again, "Who do you like more, me or Sarah?" "Oh." Ruger wanted to blurt out "you" this time, but even if he really thought so in his heart, he would never say such words. Not to mention saying it in front of Sarah. Because this question should not be answered at all. It's like asking a person whether he likes his mother or father more. Indeed, under normal circumstances, if this is a child, then the younger he is, the more likely he is to answer that he likes his mother. Because in most cases, the mother is the relative who takes care of and raises the child when he is young. However, if you ask a person in his 50s or 60s, or even those who are dying, whether he has benefited more from his father or mother in his life, then the answers of the two will be more average than when they were children. If the question is about men, then the answer will even be biased towards the father. Because if the mother does more work during the child's infancy and even childhood, then from adolescence, perhaps until adulthood, when he gets married, and even has his own next generation, the father will generally silently give his love behind the scenes. So looking back, the question of whether a person likes his mother more or his father more is meaningless. Even if the answer at that moment is his true thoughts and the true feedback of his real experience, it does not mean anything. Parents are ultimately equally important in a person's life. Although it is not appropriate to use parents as an example, perhaps brothers or sisters, or parents and children, or even language courses or mathematics courses can be used for analogy. However, if we talk about close relationships, Ruger's relationship with the two women is also this kind of first-order heir type of closeness. Spouses, children, and parents are all first-order heirs. Indeed, if he were to answer this question sincerely now, he would definitely be biased towards Tia from the bottom of his heart. But if the three of them just keep going, two demons and one time traveler, their lifespans cannot be measured in normal units. It is hard to say what will happen in the future. Since they are destined to live together for hundreds or thousands of years, Ruger will never answer this question. Even if he uses the words in the so-called scumbag quotes to deal with it. For example, "You are equally important to me, and I like you all." But the demon tail didn't even think about it and directly answered, "It's you, of course it's you." However, at the same time, his demon tail has already wrapped around the slender waist of the background board Andariel. Is this considered cheating in front of him? Although this seems to be the third leg. But, isn't this more serious? The scumbag behavior of the demon tail version of Ruger was so unbearable that even Ruger himself, who was watching, couldn't stand it, not to mention Tia in his arms. But Tia's change was beyond Ruger's expectation. Not only did she not continue to control the demon tail, or point out his lies, asking him to show his sincerity or something. On the contrary, she slowly and firmly pushed away the demon tail in front of her, with a bit of sadness in her dejection, and sneered a few times. "Is that so? I see. No, it is so. It turns out that no one can be relied on. It is true that no one is worth it. Since I always make you unable to let go, always disappoint you, and will always be abandoned by you one day. Then, why don't I just rely on myself forever? I am alone and happy." After saying that, she changed again. First, the scholar's clothes like her mother Leah turned into her assassin training clothes. Then the training clothes turned into a set of light and heavy, steel and leather ranger armor. Then, only the chest armor and hand armor were made of steel, and the rest were leather ranger armor, which turned into iron armor. Then, countless orange-red lights of sulfur lava appeared in the gaps of the iron armor. Soon the lava broke through the armor and completely covered Tia's body. And Tia in the constantly flowing magma quickly transformed, and finally, a red-scaled half-dragon with a chilling breath broke through the magma and appeared in front of Demon Tail. That figure made Ruger feel particularly familiar. That so-called red half-dragon, isn't it the big boss at the end of the level in the original 3 generations of the game, the ultimate evil of the 7 hell gods, Leah's version of Diablo, Leopoldo? That is much thinner than the original muscular Diablo. It's like a barbarian who has become an Amazon warrior. However, Tia's version, well, Tia Polo, has a stronger feminine flavor, but is also relatively stronger. If the original Diablo is a muscular barbarian, then Leopoldo is like a Valkyrie-style Amazon warrior. And Tia is like a female monk, or, simply a female assassin. Her dexterity and agility are not inferior to Amazon, but at the same time, the explosive power contained in her muscles is not much lower than that of a barbarian. Although she was a demon in the form of an evil red dragon, Tia's new appearance immediately attracted Ruger's attention. Ruger was not lying. He really felt from the bottom of his heart that Tia had a special temperament that had always attracted him deeply. No matter if she was a young girl, a mature woman with full temperament, or an old woman with white hair. Even the appearance of a demon red dragon that could scare a child to tears on the street. He really thought she was beautiful, beautiful to his heart. The red dragon like Tia laughed sinisterly, and the demon tail on the opposite side had been retreating under her appearance, with cold sweat on his face. On his face, he still tried to force a smile at the red dragon Tia. Why are you hiding? Didn't you say that you like me the most? Don't you think I'm the most beautiful? Why don't you dare look at me? Could it be that you lied to me? Tia's voice became hoarse without saying a word. Even if Ruger was slow-witted, he could tell that these words were not so much Tia questioning Devil Tail as she was questioning herself. She, the Diablo like her, was saying goodbye to the past and Ruger in this way. Once her little drama in the sea of consciousness was over, Tia might really become Diablo and never come back. No. She must not be allowed to continue to hurt herself like this. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 443. No. I absolutely cannot let her continue to hurt herself like this. I must think of some way. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Thinking so, Ruger immediately rushed towards Tia with a shout. He changed his previous cautious look, afraid that he would be discovered by the people here suddenly. But, no. No matter how loud he shouted, no matter how strange and intense his dancing was, no one could see him at all. So, this is the price of being invulnerable? Because there is no entity and it can't affect anything, it can be invulnerable. Because it is already invulnerable, it can no longer affect this place? No, there must be a way. Ruger looked around and suddenly saw the message board used by the two people for remote communication. He immediately ran over and picked up the marker to tick on it. It's useless, no ink. He picked up the drill and reamer on the lathe next to him and used them to carve words on the message board. Still no effect, the message board turned out to be harder than diamond. After trying countless things, Ruger bit his finger in desperation and used blood as ink to write on the message board. But there was still no movement on the message board. Is there really no solution? Ruger was anxious, but soon looked around unwillingly and decided to find the next target. But just when he was about to remotely control an industrial robot, he suddenly found that the guy with the demon tail was bleeding slowly on his hand. Looking more carefully, it turned out to be the same finger he bit. Could it be? I can affect him? Although he didn't understand what was going on, Ruger still rushed towards the demon tail quickly. Even rushed directly into his body. There was another trance, and the world was spinning. When he came to his senses again, Ruger found that in front of him was Tia's extremely terrifying evil red dragon face. This scene, which would have scared people to death, made Ruger feel relieved. Success. I got in. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile with relief from the bottom of his heart. Huh? Why are you laughing like this? The red dragon Tia on the opposite side immediately noticed that something was wrong with the devil's tail. Because, although he was still smiling, there was something more in his smile that was not there before. Sincerity. Yes, the kind of sincerity that belongs to the real Ruger. You. Brother Lu. Tia was stunned and a little bit unbelievable, and even the red dragon's face full of fierceness and tyranny also had a little more gentleness and tenderness. Ruger smiled at her again, and before he could react, he leaned over and bit her dragon mouth with his lips. At that moment, the hearts of the two people were finally connected again. Brother Lu, is it really you? You, how did you get in? Somehow, Tia's voice sounded in Ruger's mind. The two souls seemed to be hugging each other in the sea of consciousness. Behind the demon tail and the red dragon girl, they showed the shadow of the demon god. Of course I will come. Lugger smiled, remember, we will never be separated. Yeah. But I still failed. Tia smiled bitterly. I failed to overcome fear with courage, I became Diablo. Diablo Lugger corrected immediately, "You are not Diablo, you are Diablo, you will always be you." Tia didn't expect that Lugger really saw her like this, and still treated her so gently, and her heart melted a lot. But soon, she became sad again. Because Lugger accepting her is one thing, whether she can accept herself is another. She didn't want to disappoint Lugger, didn't want to disappoint her teacher and parents, and didn't want to be forced to become a red dragon. Even if this red dragon is the holder of one of the ultimate powers in the universe. What's more, she doesn't seem to represent fear. That is the object of disgust and hatred of the world. It is also the existence rejected by her teachers, parents, and even all her friends and family. She does not want to be with Ruger as the body of the god of fear. She also wants to be like Sarah, turning the devil into a god. As if sensing these words in Tia's bitter face, Ruger hugged her tightly again. "There is something I thought wrong. From the beginning, I thought wrong. In fact, whether it is pain or fear, they are like lies, and they are not natural evil." What? Tia was intoxicated in Ruger's arms, but was still shocked by his words and immediately sobered up. "What is the essence of life?" Ruger continued. "Isn't the essence of life the 4 words of seeking benefits and avoiding harm? Seeking benefits and avoiding harm, tending to what is beneficial and avoiding what is harmful. So, what is beneficial and what is harmful, how does life judge? What makes him feel happy, he thinks is beneficial to himself. What makes him feel painful, he thinks is harmful to himself. A life can achieve seeking benefits and avoiding harm only when it can feel happiness and taste pain. Similarly, when will a life feel fear? When he realizes that what he is about to face is something that will cause him pain, he will be afraid and will instinctively flee. This is the behavior pattern of the simplest organisms. The lowest level, the most direct strategy. Life continues to become more complicated, adapt to more environments, explore and understand more different advantages and disadvantages of memory, and gradually develop intelligent life like humans. Well, I know that in your worldview, life doesn't change like this. But, that's because you have a creator here, and he used his own experience to help you overcome a long period of life experience from nothing to something, and from something to him. You also know that there is no creator in my world. In a world without a creator to correct the direction, the evolution of life requires its own trial and error and accumulation. So, I will follow this logic and start from the simplest. Without a God of creation or any other correction, life will continue to evolve through a little trial and error, continue to improve, continue to experience more, and continue to remember more. At the level of human beings, the behavior of life has become much more complicated. What is beneficial on the surface may not be beneficial in the end. So pleasure has a depraved side. Similarly, what appears to be harmful may not actually be harmful. Through pain and fear, humans can more easily and quickly learn the memory of continuing to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages to survive in this world. So, whether it is for the lowest level of life or for a complex level of life like human beings, pure pain and pure fear cannot be equated with evil at all, let alone simple harmfulness. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 444. Life without pain and fear would be too fragile and die easily. The destruction and death of a life also does not mean absolute evil or absolute harm. But if there was no pain and no fear in the world, not just one life, but all life would be destroyed and die. Everything dies, everything is destroyed, everything turns into nothingness, which is the theoretical and ultimate evil that makes everything meaningless. So, in order to prevent the universe from being destroyed, in order to maintain the peace of the universe. Tia couldn't help but laugh out loud at Ruger's opening remarks, which were imitated by Jalaya. And Lugger, even though he was in the phantom state behind Deviltail, immediately approached Tia's phantom and kissed her fiercely. At the same time, his last words also reached the depths of Tia's soul. For the continuation of life, fear is still a great contributor and the guardian of human beings and even life. Still, it can be a god, a benevolent god with great love. Fear makes people progress, fear makes people survive. Fear is the best. Can I also be a good god? Tia murmured in a daze. You are the good god, Ruger replied firmly. I see. Thank you, Brother Lu. The lips are parted, the man is already dead. But soon Lugger discovered that it was him who was already dead. Another series of rapid and intense space shuttles. But this time, he is no longer rolling endlessly in the spherical carrier, like a fighter pilot doing adaptive training. This time, he could feel himself being ejected from the ground like a fin-stabilized armor-piercing projectile. He then maintained a high-speed and stable parabolic flight attitude, and suddenly returned to his own body from a world of lava. The roasted body. Oh, the host is back, is everything going well? As soon as Lugger passed his forehead, which was covered in sweat and deformed due to dehydration, he heard the system ding. It's pretty good, yee. It wasn't that he accidentally stepped on the switch, but that after his consciousness returned to his body, it was connected to the danger warning signals sent by the neural sensing systems in various parts of the body, causing his main core CPU to be accumulated by these large amounts of highly stimulating data. Gotta be down a little bit. Well, to put it bluntly, every part of his body hurt so much that he almost fainted from the pain. Fortunately, he recovered quickly. Very good. The host has successfully entered and exited the sea of consciousness of others as a conscious body, and the intensity of consciousness has far exceeded that of ordinary people. Almost, it can reach the level of the middle and upper Nephilim. Well, among all the Nephilim including the ancient Nephilim. The system explained in a somewhat comment-like manner. This little pain is nothing to today's host. You talk a lot. System Lugger finally recovered and heard the system say some inexplicable sarcastic remarks. Well, sarcastic remarks. He immediately replied, what's the matter with you? Because I'm not here. Lonely. The system seems to have entered a downtime state. After a short but obvious pause, the system directly changed the topic. Does the host still enjoy his short time of freedom? Luch, who had originally planned to have a good fight with him no matter what the system said, heard that he actually said such words, and even the words of taunting came to his lips, but he still swallowed them back. What do you mean? Lugger asked with an incomprehensible expression, and then he gave an explanation. You really let me go on purpose. In this way, tell me how you can separate yourself from the system. Yes, the system panel shook and seemed to be nodding. If the host has too much doubts about the existence of the system, he can use this method to separate his soul at any time. As long as there is a suitable body, whether it is the same race as the host, or across races, or even across life forms, the host can be reborn and gain freedom. But my body? Lugger asked hurriedly. A new consciousness will be born, the system said calmly. Continue to assume the responsibility of the host. Like, Andariel. Yes. This can be regarded as side proof that the world stone is a certain system. Lugger nodded. Okay, I understand. Eh? That's it. The system was a little surprised by Lugger's calmness. Don't the host feel that someone's life has been stolen and that he is no longer himself? Yes, there must be, Lugger said smoothly. If I leave now and you cultivate another consciousness in my body, it will indeed be as if my life has been stolen by you or him. My family and friends, all my social relationships, even my dreams, and my vision for the future will be robbed by him. Well, probably only Tia will recognize me. But, no one stipulates that I can only leave now, right? Seeing Luch speaking and looking at the system panel inquiringly, the system immediately gave him a positive reply. That's it, Lugger nodded. In that case, wouldn't it be okay if I leave again in 50 or 60 years? By then, I will be over 70 years old, have experienced everything I should have experienced, have sent off all my relatives, and have dealt with most of the social relationships I should have dealt with. According to the normal lifespan of humans, I can lie on the ground and close my eyes at any time, and no one will be surprised, right? I can just leave at that time, won't it be fine? Even though the system is knowledgeable, it was confused by Ruger's cunning plan for a while. It's not that his plan is so smart, but he can think of this in just 1 or 2 seconds, which is definitely not an ordinary person. Or, he actually had similar ideas a long time ago. Why did he think of these things before? This question is the key that made the system speechless for a while. Seeing that the system was speechless for a while, Ruger said no more. He just glanced at his attribute panel, and then hurriedly injected his body that was already on the verge of collapse with 3-color supplement potions. There was no way, he had relied on a much tougher consciousness to endure the pain before, but the injury was still there. After a few injections, he finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the 3-color health values, life, physical strength, and energy, in the attribute panel finally pulled back from the dangerous area, below 20%. However, the injections still had to be continued, at least the 3-color health values had to be pulled to the healthy area, above 90%. At this time, he finally saw the concrete manifestation of the tenacity consciousness mentioned by the system. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 445. The specific manifestation of Ruger's consciousness becoming extremely tenacious is the significant change in his attributes. Attributes: Strength 14, Agility 13, Physical 19, Spirit 38, Intelligence 24, Perception 27. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The 3 attributes of the body have not changed much, but compared with before leaving his body, it seems to have increased by 1 or 2 points. It seems that saving the body after being tortured and destroyed seems to be a way to improve physical attributes. I don't know if this is because of Sarah, the former Queen of Pain, as a close ally. Compared with the 3 attributes of the body, the growth of the 3 attributes of consciousness is much more terrifying. Intuitively, Ruger generally believes that one of his attributes is equivalent to 5 attributes when the player character is upgraded in the 2nd generation of the original game. In addition, his attributes are averaged at 5 points, and 5 times 5 is 25, which is almost exactly the initial attributes of the first level character in the 2nd generation game. However, there is a big difference. Luger has 6 attributes, 3 physical attributes plus 3 consciousness attributes. In the original game, there are only 4 attributes, which are his 3 physical attributes plus 1 spiritual attribute. Therefore, the attribute level relationship between the two cannot be calculated with a ratio of 1:5. But in general, if we force the conversion, he is now close to the 99 level full level character attributes in the original game based on attribute points alone. The Nephilim in the 2nd generation game timeline are still suppressed by the World Stone to limit their power. Their strength is still far behind that of the real ancient Nephilim, even at the maximum level. And the maximum level of 99 is probably the limit of the strength improvement of the sanctuary world at that time. Even the vast majority of monsters that ran here from hell would be suppressed to this level. Referring to the 3rd generation, it can be found that the ability of the ancient Nephilim, whether in terms of expression or killing ability, is indeed a qualitative leap from the 2nd generation. From this point of view, the 2nd generation full-level characters can only be regarded as the upper middle class of all Nephilim, and their strength is similar to that of the later students in the ancient Nephilim, which seems normal. The system's statement to Ruger, including all the upper middle class of all Nephilim in the ancient Nephilim, now seems to be quite accurate. Improving strength is of course a good thing, but if the strength improves too quickly, it is hard for Ruger not to think too much. After all, he is now almost equivalent to the 2nd generation full-level Nephilim. But not long ago, his strength was probably comparable to the second generation Nephilim of level 36 plus to 40. Well, only considering the attributes. Just a set of consciousness out of the body adventure, after returning, can your strength change so much? Even if the physical side is also suffering, it is only 3 or 5 points of attribute improvement, which is only 3 or 5 levels in conversion. The physical body itself is also suffering, so this side is actually growing. But consciousness, the leap-like improvement of the 3 attributes of consciousness should not only be because your consciousness can exist without the body. The combined effect of the system, Mephisto's evil spirit missiles, Tia's consciousness, and his own consciousness should be the direct cause of the ability leap. The significant improvement of the 3 attributes of consciousness gave Ruger the biggest feeling that his perception was more acute, but at the same time, his ability to endure pain was also reduced a lot. Why did he feel this way? Because even if he kept injecting himself with 3 color health potions, the magma around Tia was still burning him. After all, his Iron Man armor was already broken and lost most of its protective power. But can he repair the Iron Man armor now? Sorry, I don't have the time. Because, just as he was supported by dozens of injections of potions, his consciousness returned to his body and regained full control of his body, the magma around him that kept flashing orange light finally dimmed. But, just as the magma cooled into magma rock, there was a sound of cracking stones, and a fiery red half-dragon figure jumped out of the magma rock directly. That was exactly Tia's Diablo Red Dragon form. Or rather, Diabolo form. She jumped out from the crack of the stone, first gave Ruger a sweet smile, then immediately turned around to look at the battlefield around her, found the figure of the hateful demon Mephisto, and rushed straight over. As she rushed, her figure continued to expand. When she rushed in front of Mephisto, her Diabolo Red Dragon form had expanded to the same height as Laumo's demon phantom. Following Tia's figure, Ruger realized that it had been a long time since he entered Tia's Sea of Consciousness. At that time, the situation on the field was that Sarah was holding a miniature version of the poisonous Andariel and running out. At the same time, the phantom of the goddess of joy behind Sarah absorbed the source of the painful demon king from Duan and transformed it into the power of joy. On the other side, the demon phantom of the cunning demon Belial was firmly strangled by the bone tentacles of Mephisto, who was also absorbing the demon king's source from the former. The physical carrier of Belial's phantom, the mysterious Iron Man Capricorn, was already in Mephisto's other hand, as if it would burst at any time. In addition, Tia Lug was next to him. This was the situation of all the combatants on the main battlefield on the 4th floor of the catacombs. And now, Sarah's goddess of joy phantom has been fighting with Mephisto's hateful demon phantom. The position is closer to Ruger than any of the two sides before. Soon, Ruger saw what happened in between from the system that helped him maintain the vitality of his physical body. It turned out that after Ruger's consciousness entered Tia's Sea of Consciousness, Mephisto didn't want to give him a chance to turn the tables. The guy crushed the strange Iron Man Capricorn casually and threw it aside like throwing a booger, but the bone tentacles still tied the Belial demon phantom tightly and pulled him off from behind Capricorn. The demon phantom and the physical carrier were originally probably a relationship between the third-person perspective and the first-person perspective. They are also connected and cannot be separated. But once there is another demon phantom and defeats another phantom, the winner can forcibly separate the loser from its carrier and graft it onto his own carrier. Just like a spider dealing with its prey that has been tied up and stuck to its web, it can be eaten at any time. At this point, the loser has almost no chance to fight back. Especially after his physical carrier was physically destroyed, he couldn't even escape. As for competing with the winner for the dominance of the new carrier, it is something that may be deliberate in theory, but almost impossible in practice. If he had the ability to defeat the winner, he would not have failed in the first place. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 446. So, Belial almost became a plug-in blood bag for Mephisto, and he used his tentacles to wrap it around his side, and joined him in the battle. Google search reading. After Mephisto dealt with Belial, he immediately rushed towards Luctia, intending to send the two people directly. Of course, it was to send Lug to death, and to send Tia to become Diablo earlier. But before he ran halfway, he was stopped by Sarah and the phantom of the goddess of pleasure. Mephisto brought a Belial plug-in, and Sarah also brought a poisonous safety plug-in. However, Mephisto and Belial are two different demons, but Sarah's goddess of pleasure was originally transformed from the queen of pain Andariel through the transformation of demons into gods. The total amount of power of the former is that of two demon kings of hell, and both are demon god levels of the three giants. The latter is only one queen of pain. It seems that Mephisto has an overwhelming power advantage over Sarah. However, in fact, although he has an advantage, the advantage is not that great. Because Belial here has only about 1/3 of the power of a demon god of the level of the three giants. As for Mephisto, although he did not even use the demon god phantom form, he directly used the body of the paladin Austin, who was attacked by hatred, to forcibly demonize the demon body. In theory, this demon body is more powerful than the demon god phantom form. In other words, it can exert every bit of power. However, his total power is not like the complete version of the hateful demon Mephisto. It is indeed higher than 1/3, but it seems that the highest will not exceed 1/2. Sarah is Andariel, just one of the 4 little demon kings. But she is the only female demon king, and she has a close relationship with Diablo. So it can be said that among the 4 little demon kings, she is the one who knows the foundation of the three giants best. After stopping Mephisto who wanted to harm Tyareg, Sarah soon discovered the actual weakness of the three giants. In other words, the lack of original power. It seems that after the world's stone-shattering war, this person has not appeared. Although it is not because he went to the Chaos Realm to reshape his body after his death, he is hiding somewhere to lick his wounds. Otherwise, it is hard to imagine that he suddenly ran to the world where two demon kings fight to take advantage, but he did not send enough power and left half to watch the house. In this case, leaving half is equivalent to giving away half. Because he cannot take down the two demon kings here, the half he sent over will face the risk of being eaten by others in turn. It is hard to imagine that Mephisto, the conspiracy mentor of Belial, the king of lies, and the real think tank of the burning hell, would do such an unwise thing. So, he can only have an old injury that has not healed or his power is damaged. In this way, Sarah relied on the more efficient power distribution method and more sophisticated combat skills learned after reincarnation to barely fight the physical version of Mephisto. However, this so-called equal is still very watery. It can only be said that she took advantage of Mephisto's contempt for her and his eager expectation for Diablo's awakening and return, and temporarily tied the two. In fact, if Tia hadn't come out quickly enough, I'm afraid that after a few more moves, the shadow of the goddess of joy behind Sarah would also be entangled by Mephisto's bone tentacles. In that case, either Sarah gave up this time's transformation from demon to god and turned back into Andariel to join the battle, or took back the shadow and ran away, or she could only use that passive way like Belial just now, and fight with Mephisto for strength and wait for a miracle to happen. Fortunately, before she had to make a life or death decision, the miracle had already happened. Diablo, who was believed by Mephisto to be sure to come back, did come back, but not as the god of fear. The one who came back was Tyabura. When Mephisto first saw the slender female version of Diablo jumping out of the lava, he was not ecstatic, but at least he was happy. He casually shot out a frost nova, forcing Sarah to retreat, and immediately turned to look at the gradually growing red dragon man, and said with emotion, "You are finally back, my brother." However, What answered him was a merciless slap from Tiapolo's front paw. Mephisto was like a brother welcoming his brother back from afar, and was preparing to play a brotherly and respectful drama, but he was stunned by the obedient brother's affectionate slap. But Mephisto is Mephisto after all. Although he was stunned by Tiapolo's slap, his sole instinct still controlled his huge demon body to avoid Tiapolo's subsequent round of attacks. On the other hand, Sarah opposite him saw Tiapolo suddenly appear, and her heart was immediately miserable. Especially after Ruger returned to his body, he was adapting to and even repairing his body under the guidance of the system. At the same time, the consciousness that has been raised to the top level of ordinary Nephilim is being adjusted with the body whose strength is relatively lagging behind. In this way, Ruger still stood there in a daze. Tia appeared in the form of Diablo's red dragon demon and rushed towards her, but Ruger still stood there in a daze. In Sarah's opinion, there is only one reasonable explanation for this situation. Ruger failed, and Tia became Diablo, the Dark Destroyer. The two of them are now her closest people, and the two of them died at the same time. How can she not be sad? But, deep in her heart, she still retained a glimmer of hope. She didn't believe that Ruger, who had brought countless miracles to herself and the world, would fail so easily. So, although the shadow of the god of joy behind her swayed several times and seemed to dissipate, it finally solidified under her perseverance. But in this state, she couldn't think of transforming the painful Demon King origin in the poisonous Andariel. If she sucked it again, I'm afraid that those Demon King origins would not be transformed into divine power, and would pollute her own statue, turning the demon into God, and turning the God into the demon. By then, no matter whether Tia and Ruger had hope, Sarah's reincarnation this time would be officially declared bankrupt. It was a waste of effort. Although the princess was holding the human-sized poisonous Andariel in her arms, Sarah could only retreat silently without any action, ready to escape at any time. Just as Tiapolo rushed in front of her and Sarah was secretly exerting force on her legs, ready to retreat at any time, the huge red dragon man slapped Mephisto in the face with a claw. Mephisto was stunned. Sarah was overjoyed. "Tia, are you okay?" How can you be okay?" The red dragon man Tiapolo on the opposite side was still using a combo on Mephisto. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 447. Dragon Claw Tiger Attack Cobra Kiss. Thunder Claw Flame Fist Ice Palm Blade. Dragon Tail Swing Flying Dragon in the Sky Flame Dragon Strike. Google Search Reading. Originally, for ordinary assassins, martial arts that require different prerequisites to be performed are easy to use in the hands of Tiapolo in the Red Dragon form. The Red Dragon form truly brings out the characteristics of assassin martial arts that can attack with any gesture, and can hurt people by picking flowers and flying leaves. What fist blade, what hand claw, all do not need equipment. With his own pair of dragon claws, any elemental attack can be performed. For example, the move of Dragon Tail Swing, if the assassin originally performs it, it is necessary to use a powerful kick to instantly burst out the previously gathered chi to create an explosive effect. The so-called chi is the magic power in the compressed environment rather than in the body under the telekinetic ability. But now when Tiapolo uses it, she can really swing out her long tail with countless bone spikes. And she mastered the magic power of the demon god and telekinesis at the same time. This move released not only the chi, but also the magic power on the tail. The explosive power is many times higher than the original version. Although Mephisto on the opposite side instinctively dodged the previous two attacks, as Tiapolo became more and more excited and more skilled, it was only a matter of time before that guy was hit. At this moment, she heard Sarah's question, and hurriedly pulled out half a body in the gap between the combos, turned to Sarah and smiled at her. However, after laughing, she immediately realized that she was now wearing a red dragon head of Diablo, and her smile was uglier than the most ferocious demon, so she quickly retracted some of it. After a while of awkward hesitation, she still replied to Sarah, "Well, it's not okay." The two of them have a unique way of communication, which ensures that almost no one else in the world can understand, especially not afraid of leaking secrets to Mephisto. Because both of them learned Ruger's native language. After a brief communication, Sarah finally understood the cause and effect of Tia's special form at this time. It turned out that Diablo had awakened. But Diablo became Tia below. And Tia, who was originally destined to perish, to be devoured by Diablo, or imprisoned in the depths of consciousness, has replaced the original Diablo and become a new generation of God of Fear. Yes, God of Fear, not the demon God of Fear. Because Tia below has her own sense of right and wrong, and can control the evil instinct of the demon god. She is now a neutral and kind God of Fear who is neutral in consciousness and kind in behavior. The God of Fear is actually a good God, which is fresh in any world. Sarah was also stunned when she heard it. But when she heard that this was done under Ruger's guidance, the demigod of joy was immediately relieved. Well, because this kind of thing sounds like the work of that man. In addition, after listening to Tia's explanation of her situation, Sarah felt a sense of loss for a while. She thought, if it was not Max who she met at the beginning, but Ruger directly, how good it would be. If he was there, she might not have thought about reincarnating as a human and then turning a demon into a god. The god of pain can also be a god of kindness. Then she can just change her position as Andariel, just like what Tia is doing now, isn't it better? All the experiences and encounters in the past few decades are unnecessary. But soon, she remembered what Ruger said, that all experiences are meaningful. Eating 3 pieces of barbecue to be full does not mean that you only need to eat the third piece, and the first 2 pieces are wasteful and redundant. It is 3 pieces of barbecue, filling the stomach together. Think about it again, but after Ruger said this, Tia immediately interrupted and said that she couldn't be full with 3 pieces of barbecue, and Sarah couldn't help but laugh with relief. Yes, if it weren't for this experience between Max and me, I wouldn't be who I am now, and neither would Tia or Ruger. Moreover, if I didn't transform into a demon god, I would still be restricted here by the fragments of the world stone and not be free. In this case, why should I feel so lost? It's better to let that guy help me think of a solution. She broke through the mental barrier and stopped thinking about things like if it had been this or that, it would have been great, and the phantom of the god behind her became more solid. At the same time, the demon origin of the poisonous Andariel in her hand actually escaped on its own and turned into divine power and was absorbed by the phantom of the god. After figuring out a problem, the statue could actually start the transformation of a demon god automatically, which made Sarah more confident about her current heartache. After coming to her senses, she stepped back a few steps, leaving the battlefield to Tia Polo, and she devoted herself to completing the final transformation of the demon god. Without the disturbance of Père Mephisto, and because she was Andariel, she was in a state of joy and happiness after the crisis. In addition, after learning from Tia that Ruger's pain/fear essence could also be good, Sarah's efficiency of demon transformation soared like a rocket. It used to take several minutes to transform 1% of the demon essence, but now it can be completed in 1 second. The pain essence of the poisonous Andariel was originally restored from the poisonous essence, which was a state of super high essence concentration, but the total amount was not high. After being eaten by Belial and Sarah for a long time, the pain source left in Duan was less than 50%. So, when Mephisto was blasted into the air by Tia Polo's third explosion of the dragon's tail, she had already transformed the last trace of the devil's source on Duan into divine power and absorbed it into the phantom. After Tia Polo followed up with a move of flying dragon in the sky, teleported behind Mephisto, and kicked it back to the ground, Sarah finally recovered her full blood and rushed to the battle group. "Come on, kill him!" Sarah shouted excitedly. Mephisto was beaten by Tia Polo as a sandbag for half a minute. He was blasted into the sky for a while, and then smashed into the ground. He wanted to speak several times, but was interrupted by Tia's next move. It was really aggrieved and uncomfortable. But Mephisto was not good at close combat, and at this time he was taken advantage of by the melee master Tia Polo, who suddenly appeared. It was really a step wrong and there was nothing he could do. However, although these reasons exist, they are not enough to make him, a three-demon god, so miserable. In fact, the real situation is that the reason why he was beaten so hard by Diabolo was that most of his mind was on observation. Observe Diabolo's attack method, observe her skills and preferences, and observe how she is different from the previous Diabolo. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 448. Assassins have existed in the world of Sanctuary for thousands of years. With Mephisto's deep interference in the world of Sanctuary and his extensive understanding of the Nephilim, the assassins, and the martial arts methods of these French killers have long been known to the demon god. It can even be said that it is familiar to the heart. Don't underestimate the boredom of the immortal hell demon. If you just observe Diabolo's assassin martial arts, although he is not very competitive and is not very afraid of being beaten in various ways, he will not send himself out as a sandbag. But there was one thing that he had to experience for himself. That is, how different is the Diablo who suddenly attacks him from the original Diablo. The result of the experience left him shocked, or rather panicked. No, it's not that this Diablo has no resemblance to Diabolo in his behavior. If that's the case, it's actually not bad. Because that means that the female version of Big Pineapple and the original Big Pineapple are not the same existence at all. Then, there are many places to think and ponder. For example, is the Big Pineapple temporarily hiding, ready to take over when the female version is weak? But alas not. The reality observed by Mephisto is that although Diabolo uses the assassin power system, a technique that has never been used in the original Big Pineapple, she still has the memory of the original version. The way she fights now is the same as the original Big Pineapple learning assassin martial arts from scratch after limiting her power output and fighting with it. What does this mean? Explain that Diavolo is the real Diavolo. This is what scares Mephisto the most. As a hell demon with infinite lifespan, especially one of the three giants who have been thinking about invading the world of Sanctuary for thousands of years, both Mephisto and Diavolo have been reincarnated. The so-called reincarnation is to find ways to pollute the soul of a mortal, gradually replace it, and finally, transfer the soul of the devil to occupy the magpie's nest. Well, just like Mephisto did to Paladin Commander Austin. Whether it's Mephisto or Diavolo, this move has been used thousands or hundreds of times. Including those situations where a ray of soul takes over a fragile mortal body. So they are very familiar with the various situations that may arise in this reincarnation. It also includes being sealed in the bodies of those so-called heroes with great perseverance. It is precisely because of this that they have successfully used this experience several times to secretly lurk in the sanctuary world and keep themselves out of the sight of some interested people. This reincarnation is divided into several different stages. Hosts parasitized by the spirit of the demon god also behave differently. For example, if Diavolo does not show that she has Diavolo's memories now, then it is possible that she has not been fully reincarnated by Diavolo. There are actually at least two souls in her body. But she didn't know it herself. On the other hand, like now, her fighting method has both new things and old tastes, which can only mean that reincarnation is over. And, it's perfect. But if Diavolo's reincarnation is perfect, why does she keep attacking him? This is what Mephisto, who was beaten around by him as a sandbag, has been thinking about. But now, as Sarah over there eats all the poison and throws it aside, and prepares to join the battle aggressively, Mephisto does not intend to continue thinking about it. It was one thing to be beaten as a punching bag by the newly born Diavolo, but it was another thing to be beaten by a former demon king who had been transformed into a god and turned traitor. In the former case, at most he is not good looking and has some skin injuries. But things like face are not important for the time being. There is no one else around now, and the opponent is also a demon. So what if we lose? But the latter is different. If he is attacked by a new god who has successfully transformed a demon into a god, his demonic origin will not only be damaged, but he is also likely to make a wedding dress for others, helping the new god quickly pass the rebirth period. Mephisto has done countless good deeds throughout his life and is known as a model worker, but he has never helped a god. He doesn't intend to add this to his resume. To the demon god, this was a naked humiliation. So, he moved. Before being frozen by Tyabura's ice palm again, Mephisto took advantage of her lack of control over the freezing attribute to release a frost nova first. As a result, the ice demon energy condensed around Tyabula was first detonated by the frost nova. This move not only broke a key control skill in Tya's combo, but also released a magic that integrated both offense and defense. He forced Tia in front of him and Sarah behind him to retreat at the same time. Mephisto took advantage of this opportunity, sucked in the devil's origin from Belial's remains, and threw him out. His pair of bony tentacles were always wrapped around the neck of demon god Belial's phantom and sucking away at him. This was also an important reason why he had been passively beaten before and was unable to fight back. Since he wanted to turn his back on defense at this moment, he just happened to throw away this increasingly useless snack. Anyway, this demon phantom is only 1/3 of Belial's full strength. Even if it sucks him dry, Belial's true body in the burning hell will still have 2/3 of his strength. This is already much higher than his King of Lies' strength before the world's stone-shattering war. Since he couldn't be killed even if he tried harder, he might as well be stripped out first. As for whether the remaining 1/3 of the soul would bind Tia Polo and Sarah Andariel to attack him, Mephisto was not worried at all. He knew his own disciples very well. He knew that if this guy found an opportunity in this situation, he would only try to escape first. This was Belial's unique skill for survival. Moreover, the phantom was so weak that it seemed to be about to dissipate at any time. It would probably take some effort to recover the ability to escape, so why worry about his counterattack? Mephisto freed up a pair of bone tentacles, and his spellcasting ability suddenly doubled. He immediately sent out Frost Nova and Lightning Nova in an alternating manner. This kind of range magic that combines attack and defense is terrifying enough in the hands of ordinary wizards, Nephilim. When released by a demon god who is proficient in magic, its power is even more amazing. After several rounds of Nova attacks, both Sarah and Tia had to retreat 10 meters away from him. Tisk. I knew frost magic doesn't work, Tia cursed, but looked at Sarah and asked, "Is everything done over there?" "Everything is done," Sarah nodded. "That means, we have achieved all the goals of attacking the cathedral this time," Tia asked again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 449. It seems, you can say that. Google search reading. Sarah nodded, vaguely aware of what Tia wanted to say. Then, how about we retreat? Tia pointed at Mephisto, leave him here and use Nova to watch the house. Well, that's fine. Sarah pretended to think for a while and said, then you retreat first, I'll cover you. Okay. As she said that, Tia pretended to rush to the edge of the catacombs, ready to crawl back to the ground along the wall. Is she serious? How could it be? This is the two women's strategy to lure the enemy. Is the purpose of the group attacking the East Gate Fortress Cathedral achieved? Well, it seems to have been achieved on the surface. That is to eradicate the monster nest protected by Andariel in the cathedral. After uprooting this nest, there will be no more powerful monster nests in the entire area from Rogue Town in the west to East Gate Fortress in the east, from the moat in the south to the monster forest in the north. In this way, after the rogues clean up other scattered and unsystematic monster nests, this area is almost taken back from the monsters. Of course, even then, the humans in Rogue Town are not without danger. Not only will some low-level monsters be born from time to time in the monster forest, but the ghosts in this area are still the enemy of human survivors. What? Isn't Sarah the new Pope of Ghosts? Oh, that's right. Then, ghosts are fine. Eradicate high-level monster nests and strive for a wider living space for surviving humans. This goal is achieved. The second goal of the final battle is to help Sarah complete the transformation of the demon god. Now look at Sarah again. She has taken back the phantom of the god of joy and put on the Iron Man armor again. And the armor condenses with additional armor with divine power, and even divine power weapons. Obviously, Sarah's transformation into a demon god has not only been completed, she can even use divine power to modify the Iron Man armor. This Iron Man armor was completely changed into the goddess armor. Iron Man took the last step in cosplaying Saint Seiya. Sarah changed her purple Iron Man armor into the goddess armor of joy, and this second goal was obviously achieved. However, everyone, especially Lugger and Tia, join the battle for another most important purpose. Kill Andariel and get the permission to leave this world. To be precise, it is to leave the vicinity of Rogue Town, which is isolated from the outside world by the space fog, and enter the real world of the lost planet. Lugger Tia knows this purpose, and Sarah knows it too. And Sarah, as the former Queen of Pain, also knows how to get and use this permission. The method is also very simple, that is, to move Andariel's body to her throne. And press her hand on the sharp blade armrest. Let her blood light up the stone magic circle around the throne. In this way, the portal to the outside world can be opened. But now, with Mephisto present, Sarah and others obviously cannot do this. If everyone retreats according to Tia's previous plan, leaving Mephisto here, then the portal will naturally be unable to open. So, Tia's words were deliberately said to Mephisto to make him make a wrong judgment. After all, Tia, Ruger and Sarah all knew the ultimate purpose of their attack. But no one else knew except the three of them, at least Mephisto didn't know. Tia said that their goal had been achieved, so why not just retreat? Sarah on the opposite side immediately understood her plan and could cooperate with her casually. It was different on Mephisto's side. When he first heard Tia say this, he actually didn't believe it. Because in his heart, Diablo was not the kind of person who would retreat. Oh, the demon. Although Diablo seemed reckless, he was actually as cunning as other demon kings. In the original game, Diablo's calculations succeeded to the end. Well, then she was hummed by the Naritien, no, it was the Nephilim, well, she was destroyed. So judging comprehensively, Mephisto thought that not a single punctuation mark in Tia's words could be trusted. But the problem was that she actually ran away. Moreover, she really climbed up the wall and quickly climbed up along the uneven earth and stone walls around her. Seeing her go up, even the Nephilim and Rog who were standing near the top of the cave watching the battle were frightened and took 2 steps back, as if they were facing a great enemy. This scene looked like a real fight no matter how you looked at it. Mephisto couldn't help but believe it. As for Tia, she was also secretly complaining. In fact, she just said that to lure Mephisto to attack hastily, and she was looking for an opportunity to counterattack. As for whether it would succeed, she was actually trying her best. According to her original plan, she would immediately counterattack Mephisto after climbing 2 steps on the wall. But, just as she was about to make a move, she saw the signal from Rog. "Keep climbing, don't stop." A line of Chinese characters that only they can understand. Seeing this thing, Tia knew without thinking that it was made by Ruger. She was about to turn around to see what he meant, but saw that the line of words had changed to, "Don't look back. Don't let him find me." Okay, is Ruger planning to trick someone? Tia nodded slightly and immediately rushed up with all her strength. The principle of the signal light is not complicated. To put it bluntly, it is just a set of laser pen arrays. The small light spots of the laser pen constitute the basic pixels of those words. Why not use the signal light directly? Because the light of the laser pen is fine and dense, with little dispersion, and it is not easy to be discovered. The laser signal shot by Luger at an angle can just be seen by Tia, and at the same time her body blocks Mephisto's sight. In this way, Mephisto, who has always ignored Luger, will not only continue to ignore him, but also think that Tia wants to climb up. This will make him doubt his own judgment and increase the possibility of his mistakes. In fact, Luger's arrangement works quite well. Finding that Tia seems to be really going to escape, Mephisto finally lost his patience. His sudden appearance this time, in addition to teaching Belial, the ambitious man, a lesson and clearing an obstacle for his return to the burning hell, the biggest purpose is to gather enough manpower. Or the origin of the devil. Diablo's resurrection can become his ally in his next plan. If there is no resurrection, then it can become food for him. No matter which way, he has gathered enough people. Enough people to attack the high heaven. He wanted to get back from the angels what he suffered in the world's stone-shattering war. And now, Belial's remains have been thrown away by him, and he is ready to kill Diablo, who has successfully resurrected but suddenly rebelled, and absorb his demon essence. How could Mephisto let her go? Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 450. Seeing that Tiapolo was about to climb to the second floor of the catacombs, Mephisto opened his hands and gathered his energy. Instantly, a series of evil spirit missiles with leaping skulls were generated from the white smoke of the demon skull under him and rushed towards Tia. These things seem to be extremely vicious, but in fact, their single target attack power is not very high. Its most core killing method is that the evil spirits carried on it entangle the evil spirits of the attacked. In simple terms, it is the effect of ghost paralysis and ghost possession. Of course, the so-called low single target attack power is for high-level Nephilim. Google searched can. If it is just an ordinary Nephilim, for example, with only 10 or 20 levels of ability, it will still be killed instantly by this evil spirit missile. The model worker sent this thing to Ruger before. It can be seen how outrageous his judgment of Ruger's strength is. In his eyes, Ruger is probably not much stronger than the Rogers watching above. So, he also dug a big hole for himself. That's why he is now in a dilemma facing Tia below. At this time, he used this move again, but he didn't underestimate Tia. He knew that this move would not cause much damage to an opponent of Diablo's level. However, this is still his move with the longest attack distance, fastest flight speed, highest accuracy, and fastest release speed. The most important thing is that he did not only launch one evil spirit missile this time, but 12 at the beginning. It's just like when Ruger used the Type 42 rocket launcher to bully Andariel. Such a large number of fast and accurate missiles could not cause much damage to Tia below, at least the effect of the evil spirits would slow her down. Her slowness would give Mephisto the time he needed to cast other magic. Tia below's best skill is fire spells, and the most resistant to this system is also this system. But her affinity for ice magic is not high, so when she cast the ice knife before, Mephisto would snatch the magic dominance, and then turn the tide. So, after the evil spirit missile group, did Mephisto want to add an ice spear or even an ice storm? Well, if it were someone else, maybe he would really choose this. But who is Mephisto? He is one of the three giants of hell. Putting aside those useless titles and labels, he is at least the one who is most familiar with and knows Diablo's foundation in the entire Eternal War universe. He knows that although Diablo's affinity for fire is much higher than ice, it does not mean that his fire resistance is also much stronger than ice resistance. In fact, on the contrary, the far-sighted, cunning, Diablo knows better than anyone how dangerous it is for them, the devils of hell, to have two obvious weaknesses. So, he has already completed this aspect. Yes, perhaps many people don't know, or don't realize at all, that Diablo's resistance to ice is even stronger than his resistance to fire. So, Mephisto would not make such a mistake, misusing ice magic, trying to control Diavolo through low-temperature restrictions. The next magic he brewed was a high-level lightning skill, Thundercloud Lightning Spear. That's right, it was another multi-bullet continuous attack magic. Because Diablo was not without lightning resistance, but among the three elemental systems, lightning resistance was the lowest. So even if the magic he cast was much stronger than that of an ordinary Nephilim mage, and the control effect was much higher, but facing Diablo, he did not dare to guarantee that a lightning spear would be effective. After firing 12 Demon Skull Evil Spirit missiles, he immediately stretched out 2 spiral bone tentacles, and with his 2 forearms, brewed the next thundercloud storm together, but he did not fire it, waiting for a better opportunity. On the other side, although Tia was climbing the wall and looked bloated and laborious, she was actually much thinner than the original Diablo. Moreover, after merging with the soul of the old noisy man, she recalled the memories of the martial arts of various schools that Mr. Max left her when she was a child. That's why she was able to suddenly use the martial arts skills of the assassin faction that she had rarely used before. She could master the attacking martial arts of the assassin, and she could also master the evasion and even defense martial arts. Although Mephisto's magic skull missiles were numerous, fast and accurate, she still had enough ability to dodge them. However, in that case, not only would she expose her own strength and make Mephisto more vigilant, but it would also make Sarah and Lugger, who were still on the 4th floor underground, more dangerous. Although Lugger did not say it clearly, the cooperation between the two of them did not need too many words now. She knew that Lugger wanted her to attract Mephisto's attention so that she could do something underground. If she avoided the missile attack of the model worker, it would inevitably make the other side retreat and let her climb out of the cave and leave. So, after pretending to be struggling but actually dodging 4 or 5 demon skull missiles with great ease, Tia was still hit by a missile, and the evil spirits instantly burst out and entangled around her. These evil spirits raised by Mephisto in the depths of the burning hell have a much stronger pressure on the soul of the Demon King than ordinary evil spirits. Under normal circumstances, if a lonely ghost accidentally rushed to Diablo's body, it would be scared to death by the pressure of the demon god before it could use the evil spirit entanglement. But these evil spirits, although still fearful, still caused a moderate deceleration effect on Tia under the control of Mephisto. Well, deceleration, not immobilization. It was not directly devouring the target's soul, turning its body into a walking corpse. But what's interesting is that although these things forced a layer of deceleration debuff on Tia, because they were completed in a state of fear, when they completed the task and dissipated, they turned into wisps of the origin of the fearful demon god, nourishing Tia Polo's demon body. It was equivalent to, although it slowed her down, it not only did not cause her damage, but also increased some of her attributes. Well, that attribute is probably equivalent to the magic value plus the magic limit. Tia was a little amused to find that this effect still existed after being hit by the demon skull missile. But since that was the case, she didn't plan to dodge it, so she pretended to be immobilized by the evil spirit missile, kicked the air with her back foot, and the whole person, well, the whole red dragon, almost slipped off the wall. However, her movements were so big that Ruger immediately sent a laser signal, "Act more modestly, don't overdo it." "Tisk, you're asking for too much." Tia pouted and complained, but her hind legs kicked into the air and immediately kicked out a dragon's tail, causing an explosion there.